welcome to a bonus edition of A Stab in the Dark. Now, last weekend we went to FrightFest on the Sunday, and then you guys, because I had to work on the Monday, you guys stayed again in London, and you did the
day.
Monday.
The true horror fan stay.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Cool it off. So we're going to do a little review of our time in London, and some of the movies we saw as well. So, overall then, Dave, what did you think of the couple of days you spent there?
Honestly, I had a real good time. You know, I mean, it was great to spend a night in London. It was great to spend like 2 full days just watching horror movies, like none of which I'd even heard of, to be honest with you. Like,
Well, they're almost all new, aren't they?
UK premieres, international premieres, world premieres.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so cool to be part of that atmosphere as well for 48 hours. You know, like it was right in the middle of Leicester Square, right? You know, in between movies, you could step out into Leicester Square,
Go to the pub.
go, you know.
Yeah. Quick speed drink in the Wetherspoons before the next movie.
We would never do that. But you know, you could go around the corners of the pub and you could spot the other FrightFest fans.
Yeah,
too,
they all
right?
had our lovely lanyards on, as you can see. If you're listening or watching, even not listening,
Especially if you're listening. Especially if you're listening.
Can you hear the lanyard?
And Mike, how did you go there?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, ditto to what Dave said, but also it was like a massive theatre, massive cinema, biggest I've ever been on. It was like there was an upper level and a lower level.
Yeah, there was like
a
the
theatre.
stalls.
Yeah,
Yeah, you had stalls circle and upper circle.
Yeah, and we were on the not true fans area because we were on the day pass zone.
Yeah, well,
it was still very nice.
The true fans with the 4-day passes get to go. They can choose the stalls or the circle, which have these nice recliner seats. If you've been to those Odeon Luxes, you'll know the ones we're on about.
Yep.
Where we had the kind of older school, I can imagine the whole cinema once upon a time had these seats that we were in.
Yep. And they also had the red lanyard. So hopefully we're going next year, and hopefully we're going for the whole.
Yeah, we want to do
I feel like he just wants the red lanyards. That's all he
and then
cares
hopefully
about.
we'll see some red lanyards.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, you only get one lanyard that way, which is kind of sad. But yeah.
But it was a cool day. I mean, I spent the day there and I had to come home, but I had a great time just watching these movies. It's really like spurred on my love for the horror stuff in preparation for episodes coming out soon.
Yeah, you got to see a bit of the community, the horror community in the UK.
And it's nice.
Yeah, some things that weren't, because we're really mostly covering like classics, but you got to see some like indie stuff, I imagine.
Absolutely.
That probably will never get covered on this podcast. There won't be big.
No.
And it was super fun as well for all 3 of us to experience the first time at the same time. You know, and then, you know, like 40 minutes before the next one for us to just go around to the pub, right, and just talk about them, and we'd have such wildly different takes.
And yeah, there are when you're there, you're able to actually kind of stick around and just sit there and talk to each other about it, and you get that time, you get the half an hour, 40 minutes in between, which is actually important just to reset your brain in between all the, and then it's not overloaded. I don't know how you two felt when you stayed the extra day. Did you find that your stamina was running out on the second day, or?
Well, my stamina for horror movies wasn't going down, but I think because
my stamina for fast food was running out.
That tiny bed, and
Oh yeah, you shared a bed, didn't you?
It was a good time.
Hot take on this podcast today is these two shared a bed.
Yeah. I don't think I was so well rested, so I was. As we're coming to it, I kind of did a little drowse in the shittest movie, whereas Dave did a little drowse in one of the good
best
ones.
So,
yeah, which is all good with me. But
yeah, nice.
Other than that, very nice. Had a great time.
Now, unfortunately, on the Sunday we missed the first.
Yep, arrived a little late.
Yeah, we arrived a bit late. To be fair, it was like a 3-hour drive. When on the way, we sorted out some future episodes of this podcast. So it was a nice afternoon, morning, whatever it was.
There was like a festival going on, like a little street food.
Yeah,
it was kind of nice.
Yeah, exactly.
We just had a good time,
I think that's the thing. When you're in London as well, it's not only where you're going; it's the whole atmosphere of London.
Yeah,
is quite
you want to
special.
get a little bit acclimatized, don't you? Want to take it all in before you.
And there was loads of stuff going on. We were on South Bank on the other side of the city, so we came over the bridge and we were able to see this.
So a little bit of like a live performance of a choir.
Oh,
yeah, choir. Yeah,
made me actually like choirs. It was really cool, right?
Well, it shows how good they can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for real.
He's joined the local church in his new house.
It's got a choir room now. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. So let's just go very briefly through some of the films we saw. The first one was the Christopher Lee documentary, new one that has been produced by Sky. For me, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I like the idea of it more than the execution, and I find that a lot with these Sky documentaries. I've watched them in the past, moment in there with his niece, who just basically put out there, she said, I didn't know this, I didn't know at the time or anything, and I've got no evidence for this, but I thought he was a bit feminine. And there's nothing wrong with that in general anyway, but it's just this idea of...
She was making a lot of claims about things before she was even born, or when she was very young, I imagine.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a
That's more that bothered me. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything to do with the actual subject matter, because who gives a shit? But it was more to do with just her making these unsubstantial... I can't say the word. Help me say the word.
Unsubstantial, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Isn't it unsubstantiated?
Yes, thank you, Dave.
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't read your mind. Yeah. Well, I watched it basically just for entertainment. I wasn't really looking to come away with it from it with any new information. I kind of knew the interesting bits about Christopher Lee's life going in. So as just like a piece of entertainment, I liked the kind of spruced up showy things, like the puppets that I know that you didn't like.
Yeah, I didn't get on with that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of
maybe
fun.
you can kind of explain what that was, 'cause it was kind of
So there was like a puppet of Christopher Lee, and then there was an impersonated voice by
Serafinowicz.
Serafinowicz, who I do love, so I appreciated that as well. I think it was just nothing amazing, but it was a nice enough documentary, a nice little way to spend an hour and 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't say don't watch it. I'd just give it a 6 or 7 out of 10.
I think it had some very interesting... There wasn't a lot of actual Christopher Lee in it, which was a downside for it a little bit.
I noticed they used a lot of the old trailers, which are probably basically free to get now as well.
Royalty free,
Yeah.
But the few things of Christopher Lee I hadn't seen before, like the one where he's interviewed and he objects to being called the King of Horror.
That was funny.
That was great,
entertaining.
yeah.
That was pretty much the best bit, I felt like. But yeah, overall, it was fine.
It was a nice kind of entry point into the festival. I know it wasn't the first one of the day, but it actually kind of works for me anyway as a way of kind of just easing myself into
it's kind of like a
horror
warm-up.
Horror movie festival. I felt like I liked the puppet thing. I liked that they were trying to do something with the documentary. I found the whole thing kind of like fatuous and surface level. But I mean, his life
That's the word for it, surface level.
Yeah, his whole life though is insane, right?
Oh.
Like they could have done a documentary series, as long as that Vietnam War one, and probably still not gone into.
Yeah.
It probably deserves that though. I think the issue
yeah.
for me was it actually. He probably deserves, if any actor does, it's Christopher Lee, because it's so.
He had one of the longest careers in movies.
Yeah,
but I mean, everything he did before the movies, even right, like fascinating stuff, right? And I know there's not a lot of information out about it. And you mentioned as well on the day, Joe, about his relationships as well to his wife.
Yeah, they mention it in passing, don't they?
Yeah.
They don't really do that anything but that or anything about. They go into his friendship with Peter Cushing and the others.
Vincent Price. Yeah.
Vincent Price. Yeah, they're like the three amigos basically there.
Yeah, but everything was kind of in passing. It was quite breezy and it took
it's good.
Along.
I mean, in a way, I'm shooting it off, but in a way, for me, not knowing much about that early horror stuff, it taught me stuff about Hammer. And I don't really have any sort of. I mean, I know you love vampires and Dracula, so you'll be all
I've
over
watched,
that.
like a huge degree of Hammer movies, and there is a lot of them. But
whereas it basically was my first exposure to Hammer, really. Other than knowing Christopher Lee played Dracula, I didn't know anything
that's
about
one of the
the
other
company.
things I liked as well. Like it put the spotlight on some movies I'd never heard of. Like that one with the fish gun or whatever it was.
Oh yeah,
that Australian
I now
one,
really want to watch.
Yeah.
Not Hammer, but I don't know, some weird ass movie with Christopher Lee. So I'm glad that it just exposed me to some of those things. Yeah. Return of Captain
Fantastic or something like that.
Something like that.
So out of 10, Dave?
Ooh. 6.5.
Okay, cool. I'll go with a 7.
Well, he's already broke the rules by going for points.
Yeah, I know.
I guess.
Oh, God, that wasn't in the rules.
We're working in kilometres here, not miles.
Yeah, what are you going all decimal about it?
Well, in that case, 6.72 kilometers out of 10.
Fuck off.
Yeah, well, if we're going whole numbers, I'm going to go for a 7.
Fine.
If we're going fancy Dave numbers, then I'll go for a 6.632. Yeah.
Thank you.
The next movie we watched, Dave, do you want to go into a bit more? Because you were really hyped about this one.
So this one was called Azrael, Angel of Death. And this was the second feature from the director. I think his name is E.L. Katz.
Yep.
And I was a big fan of his first movie.
He was there as well, right?
Was that?
He was there as well, wasn't he?
No, I don't believe he was.
Was he not?
No, he was one of the directors that
was that
wasn't able to attend, I believe.
Was that a producer that talked before?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Cheap Thrills was the first thing he's ever done, but it was his first full-length feature, I think.
Yeah,
it was a great little dark comedy.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before FrightFest, and then subsequently watched it after and loved it. It's great. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
And I just the day before going to FrightFest heard about this movie Azrael. I didn't actually know at the time when I heard about it that it was going to be showing. But I'm a big fan of Samara Weaving, and I'd heard about the kind of the hook of the movie, which is that there's very little dialogue. And there was going to be a post-apocalyptic setting and very violent. So I was really, really excited.
All
to see
your
it.
jam.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it absolutely delivered for me. When you set your expectations quite high, there's a chance of being disappointed. But no, I mean,
which is exactly what happened to me when it got to me.
Overhyped it for you, maybe. But for me, it absolutely delivered, and probably was my favorite movie that we saw.
It was funny. You now say that you were underwhelmed by it, and it lived up to your expectations. It's funny how you two have share many similar opinions on horror movies, but
there's
you
some
really
certain
disagree.
Movies that polarize. I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. It's because it's one of those kind of movies that's very minimalist, and you're just thrown into this world, follow these characters on their ride, and then there's a conclusion to their little story, which is fine. But
you just described a movie, Mike. You just described a movie.
No, because there was no dialogue. First of all, there's no building of this world or any kind of substance behind it.
That's not true.
Well, I mean, it is. we got a little bit of it, but really, it just seemed I don't know. If you wanted to do a movie like that, I feel like it would need to be a bit more like dreamlike and fantastical. I guess
it's pretty kind of fantastical,
set in realism, but you got no real
burnt zombies
context.
Running around. Yeah, I'm like the opening crawl, like introduced it. It was like a post-Rapture world, right? So you kind of read between the lines with these kind of burnt zombie people that they were.
And explained or not, the things I saw weren't particularly fresh for me. I mean, I won't spoil the ending, but that is a thing that I've seen in many horror movies before. A lot of the kind of stuff that happens is things that I've seen before. I love Samara Weaving, and for that I'm putting it above where I would have. And it's very well directed as well. My fault lies with the lack of substance behind the writing.
Yeah, because I disagree with you on the whole substance thing. I don't quite understand where you're coming from.
It's the same reason I was never much of a fan of Fury Road until Furiosa came out. Maybe it's because in my mind, I'm somewhat more of a writer than any of the other things that I approach it from thinking about the writing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just impressed the fact that they could get through the whole movie basically without any dialogue.
Yeah, but silent film did that for
they did,
years.
But they were forced into that at the time. This is a choice.
And the artist did that in 2011 and won an Oscar for it.
Yeah, but this is that's a whole different kettle of fish, though, right? The artist.
You're still
Also, that's not actually a fair comparison because silent movies and the artist have intertitles, which are in lieu of dialogue. But still,
and what was that text at the start?
It was an opening crawl of information and said the time. Yeah, but there was no.
Star Wars has that.
Yeah, it's still a form of intertitle. Okay, we got one, but they use that in lieu.
Into what?
Anyway,
into the start and the seeing anything.
The fact that there was an artistic choice made within this movie to do it the way they did, and I liked how they did it.
Yeah, I like making that decision. I just think it could have been executed better. That's all I'm saying.
I disagree entirely with that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just because I thought that it was a lovely story. Not lovely in the fact it was a nice story.
I thought it was pretty heartwarming.
It was such a romance. Yeah.
But the story itself to me was just... It wasn't bigger than it aimed to be. It was just this story about this character who comes across some other people and then you go. That's basically it. And he has some sort of zombies there as well.
Yeah,
and it was just a story. And it didn't need to be about saving the world. It didn't need to have a bigger overarching
Oh no, I'm not.
world.
I'm definitely not saying I wanted that. I just wanted more context to her little world.
But what's wrong with not having that? Not having that context allows that person to go away from the film, not having everything written down for them. I like the idea. I don't know where she came from.
Yeah, but the problem is I want to care a little bit.
Yeah, but you can care
about
without that.
what it means, not just kind of...
because you
feel like it doesn't mean anything.
Well, you can't empathise with someone if you don't know their entire life history.
You got to know something
Jesus.
about them. That's human nature.
What about
right?
her situation? Like the immediate threat that she's in. You can't empathise.
immediate
with
threat,
her.
and you're given that immediate threat.
The world's shit. She's probably better off dead in that world.
Well, there is, but there's this. Yeah,
might be
that's true.
Yeah.
You are probably better off dead in that world. However, you survive, and human instinct is to keep on surviving. So if
Yeah.
you are in that situation, you are going to do that. And I got very much kind of Last of Us vibes, especially Last of Us 2. There's specific areas in Last of Us 2.
Which is a
Massive
masterpiece,
influence.
one of the best games of all time.
So yeah, I enjoyed that, and I thought in a way, it's more what I wanted that Last of Us series to be than what it actually is. Maybe it'll do better in series 2.
I mean,
I don't know.
To be fair, season 2 would be more of an appropriate.
Yeah,
time,
it would.
right? Yeah.
Anyway, I just enjoyed it as a little story. So Dave, give us your rating out of 10.
I'm going to give it 9.3476 out of 10.
Mike,
9 is wild, man. I'm giving it a 7.
7. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go 9 as well. I'm going with 9.
1 point shy of The Godfather. Azrael.
You're one to talk. Jesus Christ.
What do you mean?
Didn't you give House of the Dead a 9 out of 10?
No, an 8. 1 point better than this movie. I had a 1 point better time.
Well, look, we deal with round numbers. We're a metric country, so
It is what it is. Don't hate on the system.
we move in tens. So Dave, what do we got next?
I think it was it St. Clair next month?
It was.
Saint
It
Clair,
was.
your favourite month
maybe-
of the day.
It definitely wasn't my favourite, but this is another one where we're going to difference in opinion.
We are.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because
you're right.
this movie had a lot of problems. I'm going to say that out the bat before you attack it. It had a lot of problems and plot faults, and generally, like...
This is about 5 minutes ago. You said you're more of a writer. 5 minutes ago, you said that.
Yeah, I know. But at least they wrote something down for this movie. So,
Yeah, that's disingenuous. They
Also,
wrote something-
scripts are just dialogue and nothing else.
So what did you think they did with the last film? Did they go, I don't know, improvise?
Make it up on the day.
I'm just hand waving that, but it just didn't have a lot. We're talking about the previous movie.
Because you're full of shit.
Because it's better.
No, St. Clair is not better than Azrael, but
according to you.
But I had more fun watching it because it had its flaws, but it was just a 2000s-y horror. And with a bit of comedy in there, and I enjoy that little throwbacky
Actually,
nature.
I enjoyed some of the comedy in it. There's a character that is basically like on her shoulder with her who wasn't actually there, but kind of in her mind.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he disappears.
He
after-
disappears for the whole
like
2/3 of the film.
Yeah.
Like a lot of characters and several plots.
Yeah, but there's
Part
one
of the
bit.
fun. Part of
I mean,
the
there's another bit of the film where she discovers something in someone's house, and you think, oh, it's going to be that person. It ends up not being anything to do with them. It's like, well, you didn't actually put in the plot there.
fun. Just got hit by the red herring.
Yeah, but if you're going to
Just
make
don't
a
look at him
good.
too hard because he doesn't look quite right.
Like,
but-
Agatha Christie didn't make a name out of this stuff by throwing out red herrings without any just
Yeah.
cause to have them there.
Yeah, I know.
If
I
every
know.
Poirot-
But it's the flaws I like is the problem.
No.
Because I love a terrible slasher, for example. I love like a rubbishy 2000s.
Well, you're
Horror.
into vampires and Twilight, aren't you?
Oh yeah, but that's got its fair share of problems as well. But yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun.
I mean, it's not just
It is.
a Stephen Moffat Doctor Who episode has better plot endings
There's no
than that
fun-
does.
there's no fun to be had
Less
there,
red
though.
herrings. Dave, go on. What did you make of this film?
Well, I mean, we've touched on it's a mystery film, but the mystery cheats. Like,
Yeah.
it deceives the audience.
And you're a
Like,
crime horror procedural guy.
Yeah, you know, like, I mean, I love to go and have fun at the film, right? Like, and you know, I can overlook a lot of things, and you know, I'm not like so like bothered by plot holes really, but I think with a mystery plot, it's more important, and you can't step out the cinema and then replay the events of the film and realize that 80% of it doesn't make sense. I reckon if we watched it again, you'd be watching it like, this goes nowhere, this goes nowhere, this
No, I
character
could
leaves,
see
this-
that when I watched it the first time. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of movies like that I like. Like a lot of Jallos are built all around this big mystery, and it'll just give you like a million different choices, and half of the plot points don't add up at the end. But because you had a good time, you don't care, or I don't care.
There's elements of the film I really like. Like, I enjoy the fact that she's like a psycho, but has a good side, like Dexter. It's basically Dexter.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
kind of a mashup between Dexter and Life is Strange.
And I like that idea, and I think if it's done well, then they could have made a really good film. Hey,
Like here,
like here,
like in this movie.
what movie?
The movie we're talking about.
It wasn't done well.
You were so incredulous you didn't know what I was on about.
I didn't know you were on about this film because I didn't.
It just doesn't compute.
It doesn't compute that it's good.
You couldn't understand that could be possible.
It's not good. It's all right at best, and the ideas are better than the execution.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Sure.
I mean, I liked the idea of the movie on paper a lot more. We had like a 1-sentence description or something before going in, right? And to be honest, like, yes, you're comparing it to Dexter, but I didn't really buy that she was a psychopath, to be honest with you.
No.
Like, she was a traumatized victim. You know,
it was a bit more like Promising Young Woman, actually, thinking about it.
Yeah,
I said that on the day.
Well, if they leaned heavier into that psycho element, that would have been better for me. Is what I mean. Like they made it, and there were some great characters within it, but there was also some very dated characters, a very camp theatre.
Yeah, that's another thing that makes it heavily 2000s. Yeah.
It was, but it felt like Cam from Modern Family stuck randomly in this. And it works within the context of Modern Family, and it still would today. But in something like that, I was just like, it's just out. It's out of sync.
I mean, having like a very camp gay character is fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But the problem is that very, very clearly, it was intended as comic relief, and that's the dated part, right? Like,
and it's the classic theatre stereotype. Like who works at a secondary school, high school.
Yeah,
and it's like, yes, this is the best thing ever. This is going to be amazing. It's a lovey type character. It was just like, to me. I don't know about you.
There was a lot of laughs in the audience for some of his lines. Some of his lines were actually quite funny.
Yeah, but
some of it was funny. A lot of it didn't land.
It's a little bit problematic as a character.
Definitely.
Okay, then, Mike, give us your.
Thing that dates it though. And another thing that I.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be dated like. And I don't. Were they going for that?
I'm not sure that they were.
And if it's not an actual choice,
and if they literally weren't, then I'm liking it ironically, perhaps. And maybe that's something you can more stomach. Yeah.
Go on then, give us your rating out of 10.
That was another 7.
Okay, Dave.
No, 6. Straight 6 this time.
Well, that's higher than I thought you'd give it.
I'm not sure. 5 or a 6. I kind of like the elements in it. So I'm wanting to give it a 6. However, I know it's based off a book, so they didn't come up with it themselves, so I'm going to give it a 5.
They get negative points.
What
if the book's got the same plot holes and it was
original.
a really faithful adaptation?
But then they should have done better.
They should have corrected the book.
Like Lord of the Rings corrected the book by not having in that character who...
Well, Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, exactly.
And like tens and tens of minutes of reading about mountains and so on.
Exactly, and trees.
So many songs.
Yeah. What do we see next, Mike?
Are we including the short movie?
We can.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Unsettled.
Why not? Unsettled, yeah.
Played before St. Clair, which is the first directorial
debut.
Debut of Bella Thorne's direction. And I thought that was pretty good. It was fine. Didn't have a lot of substance to it because it was quite a short, I feel like.
It was, less than 10 minutes? Maybe like 5 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
To be honest,
but it was directed pretty well.
It was. It was quite disorienting to watch, which I think was actually a deliberate choice. Because
it sounded like drug-induced.
Because he was, precisely, like he was drugged, right?
Like spiked in a club.
I was... I think we may have arrived like a tiny bit late. I'm not sure because I didn't realise that it was a short film at first that we were watching, and so I spent the whole time.
We definitely didn't arrive late because it said.
I just missed it. I just missed it.
I also missed it, and I thought, how are they going to come back from this?
I was spending the whole time trying to like connect the dots. Like, how is Bella Thorne?
I thought so.
I love the idea that you were both sitting there like you'd walked into the wrong theatre and you were watching the wrong movie.
Well, I was quite relieved when it ended, and I was like, oh, actually, that wasn't it, because otherwise I was lost.
Yeah,
I was so lost and wondering how are this plot thread going to
how is it going to sustain an hour and a half?
Yeah. What would you give that as a rating, Dave?
I don't know, 7. Yeah,
I think it was 7 for me.
It was really good, and debut, and it's a powerful story.
Potentially, I might give it an 8. Actually, I'm going to go with 8.
Yeah,
I'd go for a 6 personally, only because I don't know if you're analysing a short movie, do you have to compare it just to other short movies? And if so, maybe it's a 7. But it doesn't have a lot of substance to it. And okay, it's pretty good, but I want to see a feature-length movie from her before I say she's a good director or not. So
she's supposed to be expanding it into a full film, right?
Is she?
That's what.
Then there we go. That'll be when
cool.
she gets a 7 if it's
I'd like to watch
the same quality. Yeah.
What next one then, Mike?
The next one was Invader, which was the last movie of the day that you were there. Yeah.
I really enjoyed Invader.
I thought it was great. I think it was the one I enjoyed most out of the day. It might even be my favourite of the day. Yeah.
Of the whole 2 days you were there?
No, just that day.
Just that day.
Yeah. I thought it was quite a thrill ride throughout. The opening was very good.
Yeah.
Where she doesn't know what's going on in this foreign country. I thought that was quite absorbing and acted quite well. And then when it takes kind of the left turn with the home invasion shenanigans that occur, it took it to the right levels. It pushed it with the brutality. It pushed it with the direction was quite. They said beforehand that they wanted you to feel a bit like sick and off guard from the camera work.
Yeah, because the creators were there, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And they were right, and I like that they tried to do that.
I've seen some reviews online of them saying, I don't know what they were doing with the camera work, why they do this, and I think, well, it's actually purposeful. It was in there for a reason. They didn't just have someone with a shaking condition on the camera.
They didn't drop the camera multiple times. Yeah.
There
was some weird left turns in there that I don't know. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but there was some strange narrative choices towards the end. But overall, I liked it.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I mean, the whole opening sequence of her coming from Mexico into the US and the US having this kind of dream. Like when you were in Mexico, you're thinking, wow, this is going to be the American dream. And then it's kind of the hoax of that American dream. And it's quite frightening when you think about it. She's in a country where it's not her first language. She's alone. She's in what seems like a really rough neighborhood.
She can't seem to get through to the only people she knows in the country.
And it's quite frightening. And from solo traveling around, I can kind of see, I can't see it from a female perspective, obviously, but I can see it from a solo traveler perspective and go, God, if you didn't have any of this, or if any of your plans fell through, how do you do in a foreign country?
You're left without a safety net, basically. You have nothing,
So I found that pretty scary, and I just enjoyed the whole film. I don't want to really give away anything of it, to be honest, other than that. There's a lot of what was funny, what it did remind me of. And it's funny, they obviously went around some local areas and the amount of American flags in all the shots and the camera work. It reminded me a bit of going through Vietnam and seeing the Vietnamese flag, like in a communist country. It was quite interesting to me that there were so many of these American flags dotted around.
Patriotism is very, very strong there. Yeah,
and it's almost communist. How they put their flags up like that.
He's pissing off every single American listener if there is any.
But if you've ever been somewhere like Vietnam or a communist country, you will see flags every 10 feet or so. And that's what it's like in America as well. So that's all I've got to gauge it on. And that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a close second of the day for me.
So Azrael, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Azrael,
not St. Clare.
That's close though. I really, really liked it. I felt probably actually that the first act was the strongest. I found it very easy to empathize with her, despite
I could agree with that. It's the most involving.
Despite not being in her position in particular by any measure. Actually, I'm not a woman. I'm not visiting a foreign country, and I found it actually quite easy to empathize with that situation. Because to me, it just felt like a nightmare. It felt like the kind of dream, where everything you try to do just fails and goes wrong.
Yeah.
And when you're kind of like you're stuck in that like liminal space of time, like when the world shuts down and you have no options, everything falls through, and all you can do is walk yourself from A to B, and you have nothing to do, and you see like and she walks like she.
Was it 10 kilometers?
Something like that, yeah. But she arrived at a coach station, right? So presumably somewhere relatively urbanized. And she walked out of the city, right? And she got to see like parts of the city that people don't normally see. I loved the opening act. I loved the direction that it took. Actually, I really liked what they did with the home invader. I found it quite fun, and I also really liked the ending. I don't want to go into it, but it,
yeah, Joe was the one that fought against the ending.
Yeah,
I didn't love it at first, but then when it went on for a little bit longer and I realised it wasn't just like a little thing at the end, it was a whole section of the movie, I was more on board.
Yeah.
And it just kept the action going. Basically, it split into two halves, both good halves. Like the intro part is filled with suspense and kind of like dread and tension, and then the next part is just non-stop thrills and action and and sorry, I just want to talk on the camera as well, because I normally hate handheld cameras. Like there are very few times when I would prefer that over anything else. And outside of fan footage, I'm guessing.
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah. But yeah, outside of fan footage, I very, very like them. And when they had was it the director and one of the producers, I think, came on to introduce the film and talked about using handheld, I was like, oh
yeah.
But I really genuinely do feel that it was justified in this. And it was disorienting, but it definitely felt purposeful.
It felt like a roller coaster, and that's how they described it. It was like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add quickly on the bus station stuff and that side of America. I watch a YouTube video or YouTuber called Noel Phillips, who runs around all over the world on airplanes and buses. And he did this route on, they call it the Greyhound bus. I don't know if you ever heard of that in America. It's basically the cheapest way you can get from A to B across America, but it can be really dangerous. And YouTubers do it as like almost like a
well, it's one bus that goes across.
Yeah, but they're a terrible company. The Greyhound company, they will cancel buses. They leave you in the middle of nowhere with no onwards way of getting anywhere. There's a lot of like dodgy stuff which happens on these buses.
Yeah.
Even in the YouTube video I watched, he was trying to get from like LA to New York or something like this on the Greyhound, and they just get stuck in places, and the bus comes like 5 hours later. What do we do? There's nothing. There's no plan B. So it's kind of reminiscent of that as well. And these YouTubers do it as like a dare, as like one of these sort of, this will get views on YouTube type bits, but people actually genuinely have to use these to get across the country.
That reinforces the thing that it is a real. It's hard in reality. At
Absolutely.
Least the first half. It's a thing that can happen and does happen, presumably all the time to people. It's a very real fear that anyone could feel. Yeah.
Out of 10, then, Mike.
Well, I'd give it a 7, but if we're doing decimals, it's my favourite, so I put it at 7.5.
Okay.
7.5.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dave.
I don't remember what I gave Azrael, but I'm going to give this an 8.
Well, you gave Azrael a 9.3.
Okay.
I'm going to do an 8.5.
Okay.
Which is still within my bounds of metric, because it goes up in 5s and 0s.
Oh, you're changing the rules all the time.
Now, I wasn't there for the second day. I had to go home and work. So I'm going to leave it up to you two to just go through your second day and just what you liked very briefly.
Yep. So there was 4 movies that we watched on the next day because The Substance was last, but we didn't think we'd have time to get to the train, so we didn't watch that one, which may well have been the best movie of the day that we didn't watch, but we didn't watch it. So the first one was The Dead Thing, which I thought was fine, but I didn't really enjoy it. After a certain point in the plotting, it kind of lost steam. Like it was over long when it wasn't a really long movie to me.
How long was it? It did feel quite long.
It was 94 minutes.
Oh my god!
So the fact that you think it felt long proves my point.
Yeah.
Proves my point entirely. Yeah,
I do remember vaguely liking it more than you. To be honest, I don't.
I think we definitely debated a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I don't. I don't
more.
remember that much about it now.
Another not good sign.
No.
Yeah,
it was a relatively interesting, like modern take on the Invisible Man.
Yeah, it was a bit like a Black Mirror episode, but double length for no reason at all. Like it would have worked quite well as a 50-minute episode of Black Mirror or something like that.
Yeah, and to be honest, it was hurt by the fact that there was that brilliant Invisible Man movie that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, correct. 2021, I think it was.
It was good. I liked the main actress. I thought she was really good, and she had to do a lot of work in that movie.
She did a great performance.
Yeah.
The antagonist man, I don't think did anywhere near as good of a performance as her. He was the weakest acting performance of Well, there was only about 3 characters, right? 4 characters, 5 characters.
Yeah, and there was some
Small
weird editing as well. There was like 1 or 2 sequences where I just didn't actually quite understand exactly what happened. Like there was a bit with a coworker getting injured or like falling over, and I wasn't sure if like the Invisible Man did it or if he was just so shocked by the guy being there that he fell over himself. I
don't know whether they were trying to leave that ambiguous.
Yeah,
or it was just ambiguous because they didn't do enough to tell you what happened, I guess. But either way, it was a weaker entry, I'd say.
So what would you give it out of 10, Dave?
Let's go 6.2.
Oh,
well, I'm going to stick to the whole numbers.
Bastard.
It was a 6 in my opinion. It was fine. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great.
I think I liked it more than St. Clair. I don't know what I gave St. Clair. I already forgot.
6.
Okay, 6.2 sounds good then. Yeah, I definitely liked
marginally
it
more.
Using pounds and ounces.
Yeah. I do think it was better. Less memorable, but like St. Clair was kind of memorable for the wrong reasons.
That's
in
why
my
it's
opinion.
fun.
No.
Yeah, the next one was A Desert, which was pretty good actually. It had a lot of people buzzing about it when we walked out the door. I wasn't particularly buzzing, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was quite good. It was very well directed. It was a bit No Country for Old Men to a fault because it's nowhere near the quality of No Country for Old Men. But and I think it fell apart a little bit at the end. But it was a good movie. It was directed well. I was along for the ride, and the ride was quite fun. One of the characters got kind of sidelined, which was the Brad Pitt from California, wild man, boyfriend of the woman guy. I enjoyed him until he wasn't really in it much anymore. And I enjoyed the cop guy that was just kind of, he was wild carding about a little bit. Yeah, had some pretty good characters, but I think, yeah, if it had a stronger ending, I'd have loved it more. It was quite good.
Yeah, I think I probably liked it more than you. I'm not sure if it was my favorite or my second favorite. We haven't talked about the other one yet.
You mean Ladybug?
Yeah, Ladybug. Oh, I can't wait to talk about Ladybug. Yeah. It was exceptionally well directed. I loved the genre blending, almost to the point that each of the 3 acts of the film was like a different genre. I guess the main
the intro was amazing.
Yeah, the main. I guess
the first third. Of the movie
like
was very, very
basically
good.
The opening act was the strongest. It was the one I was the most engaged with.
Yeah,
and it's a bit like it was not like No Country for Old Men. There was elements of like film noir as well, and especially in the second act with the detective.
when you're following the detective.
Yeah,
definitely.
But it was a bit like Barbarian, where basically the first act builds towards a big climax,
and then you reboot.
Then it reboots the
Yeah.
story for the second act, and then they kind of come together for the finale.
Yeah.
And I think like in its totality, it's really good. But there's definitely a point when you're kind of really building up to something, and then it cuts away basically right at this first climax. And I think like
the movie never really recovers or gets to those highs again. I feel like.
Yeah. It's you feel like you've killed all the momentum of the story, and like I say, it goes through like a mild genre change at that point as well. And I do think it comes together at the end more or less, and it's definitely, of all the ones that we watched, the one I'm most excited to rewatch. I think I might appreciate it more as a complete package.
I'd agree. I might reevaluate it.
Yeah.
More than any of the others, it bears a little thought. I think. Yeah. It's not in a box kind of compared to the other ones.
And as a debut, like wow, we need to watch this guy. Right? Who was the director? Do you have the name?
It was ... Joshua Ertman.
So then, Dave, what would you give it?
8.5.
8.5, Mike?
These numbers are crazy, man. I'd give that another 7, but to differentiate from the other ones, I'll give it a 7.2.
Oh, I hate this 0.2 business.
Yeah. Well, otherwise, I'm just going to say saying 7 all the time.
5 and 0.
Just like your IMDb.
5 and 0.
True. Yeah. There's a lot of 7s out there which are worth watching, but not really worth loving. Yeah. So the next one was Dave's favourite movie.
What have you got? Let's have a look
on his head.
Tell me the story of this, because I text you in the middle of my day at work, and I was like, "Well, how's it going? Are you enjoying the movies? Any better than yesterday, or what?" And he went, "Well, we've just seen." I think you came back and went,
Yeah.
"We've just seen probably maybe the worst film I've ever watched in my life."
Yeah. Well, I'm not
It was something
I'm
like
not sure
that.
it went that extreme. I think I said the worst. Well, I don't know what I said, but I might have said.
I think you did say that.
I might have gone full ham on it there. Perhaps.
You probably did say that, to be
Yeah,
fair,
maybe.
yeah.
But it's probably the worst movie I've ever seen in a cinema, I would say.
Yeah, I think you said that. Yeah,
I think I said
Which
that
is
to
still
you.
insane.
I don't know whether I upped
Yeah.
it to 11
Yeah.
for you.
You might have done.
Yeah, but it was bad. It was real bad.
And Dave, what do you reckon with your hat? You obviously loved it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I was handed this free merch.
Show the
before
camera for
surfing
those
on. Okay.
watching.
So the film we're talking about is Ladybird, and I honestly haven't. There hasn't been a day since receiving this cap that I haven't worn it, and I'm going to take it to. I'm going to take it to my
Buried in that
grave.
cap.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I even saw your wife wearing it the other day. That was how much you...
Oh yeah. It's like it's just part of our life now. Someone has to wear it.
Take it to a shop and get it copied.
Yeah.
One for everybody. Yeah.
No. It's mine. Collector's item.
We don't know. I didn't see a lot of those in the audience as well. It might be like one of.
They all knew what
20.
was coming and you didn't.
There was like a box full. I feel
Yeah,
like
maybe we should have looked at the bin when we walked
people
out.
disposed of them
Full of
probably after the
Ladybug.
film. Yeah.
Had cats.
Okay, so
Could have took a truckload home with us.
so this was
Ladybug memorabilia in the back of the flatbed going to
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you see on
Outside
eBay
your
for
door.
like 20p or something. like old ET games.
It's
that nobody wants
it's
to
in
buy.
next year's sales in the... I was trying to...
Yeah, yes, Joe. Yeah.
Failure of mine. Hold on. In the, what's it called? The bargain bin.
Yeah,
They're going to be next year's
in the
bargain bin. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 2000 style PS2 bargain bin.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's it,
It's in there
yeah.
with like haze and that kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dave. So, what was it like?
okay. So I'll give like just a quick like summary of what it was. So
Are
basically,
you going to summarize this wild ass?
oh, I'm getting into this one. So it's about an artist going to a cabin. He just been through a big breakup, right?
Yeah.
With his like partner, and he was going to like reset and do like a new collection.
Yeah, he was also had a harsh deadline on his art as well.
Oh,
He was
yeah,
getting
yeah,
nagged
that's
by
it,
his manager or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
so he needed some time to do that.
And so he goes to it's like his family's cabin or something. I don't know.
It's very vague.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, nice.
And so he wants to get like a handyman in, right, to repair the place.
Yeah.
And basically like the whole story is like a love story, right, between these two guys. That's what it is. It's a love story.
But then
But then
it was
gets
spoiled
strange.
by the description on the
Oh yeah, that's right.
on
Yeah.
the app and like on everything on the booklet and stuff.
Yeah, spoiled.
on the website.
Yeah, it spoiled
Um,
one of the major twists in the
Yeah,
description.
that he
yeah.
was a ghost. This handyman of a murdered victim that was buried in the garden. But it pushes the romance angle for quite some time until, surprise, surprise, everybody already knew. 'cause
Yeah,
it
but
said
there's
a ghost.
There's a serial killer in the mix as well.
God.
Like
Yeah.
This is getting
there's a
convoluted.
homophobic serial killer in the
Yeah,
house.
and there's like 15 bodies or something in the garden.
Yeah, there's like shitloads
Yeah.
of bodies. And the thing is, like, a big part, I would say, like, up and past the midpoint, I would say they're basically setting up the handyman as potentially the killer. But we already know that he's the ghost and the victim because it was ruined in the description. And
Would it have made it any better?
Nothing would have made this movie better.
So why then, Mike? Tell me why. What was so bad about it? Because it sounds convoluted, but
Right,
it doesn't
so-
sound terrible.
Okay, where to start, really? I mean, think of what makes a good movie and then think of the opposite of that.
The Godfather.
So the acting in this movie, I don't want to be too mean, but
yeah, because a lot
they
of
were
the
there.
cast and crew
They were
and the
actually
actors were
there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it was eliciting laughter from the audience.
Oh yeah,
not
that was awful.
not intended
Yeah.
laughter. The woman that played his manager was terrible, just awful.
Yeah, do you know? I think that was I think her name's Scout Taylor Johnson, who was Laurie Strode in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
you said
Yeah,
this before.
yeah.
Oh, but she was all right in them.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't.
Yeah.
She wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis, but she was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and The writing, man. I mean, like this movie had about 50 endings. Like it'd fade to black. And then start again with another new ending.
And
so much so that the audience started laughing every time it came back.
And there was a woman next to us going, God. Like,
really? The woman that was sat next to me was every time there was a new bullshit plot point. Yeah.
So is it like The Room?
It's a bit like The Room.
It's more like The Room than The Godfather.
Less fun. Yeah. It's the opposite of The Godfather exists. This is it. Yeah, it's
honestly, there are so many like points about it that make no sense.
When the serial killer, I'm spoiling this movie because who gives a fuck about this? But like when the serial killer dies, he like pops like a balloon, but there's no blood or anything. He's doing this painting to trap him in this painting.
What?
There's magical paintings. Don't worry about it.
The serial killer's right there next to him, and he's going, no. He's not stopping him painting. He's just going, no.
Yeah, he's painting
about, like I don't know,
like 10 seconds. He's still
2 minutes, and then all of a sudden he goes, and then it's like a 1910s Houdini movie where he just disappears, like an editing trick, like I could do on Final Cut Pro. He's out of there
with a pop sound,
with an actual pop, and there was raucous laughter all throughout the theatre. When I don't think there was supposed to be any comedy in that scene, and yeah.
So what made it even more awkward was you telling me that the production crew were there or something?
Yeah, there was 3 actors, maybe 2
at
actors?
least a lot of people came on stage at the end because because the main, like the lead actor was also the producer of the movie, and he may have like co-wrote it as well, and the director came up at the beginning. It was the 2 of them at the beginning, but then at the end, like lots of
4 or 5 people got on the stage. Yeah, we didn't stick around for that. No. Kind of wish we hadn't.
It was too much cringe. I couldn't like.
It was cringe. It sounds like overload.
It sounds like everything I love.
Yeah, I think you would have loved this film.
I think I just left because I felt sorry for them, and I didn't want to laugh at them anymore.
And here you now are on camera.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to watch this. If I become famous and they watch this, I'm sorry. But,
I'm sorry.
But then again, just you could just make a better movie and pay it back to me. But I somehow doubt you can't.
Right,
Jesus Christ.
On that point, then, what would you give it?
I gave it a 2 because at least it's better than Wrong Turn 5.
High praise, Dave.
Oh, 9.6 for me.
Out of 100? 1,000?
No, like I don't know, like a hard 5, something like that on 5. Yeah,
5.
The worst one for me easily. Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
So you're only a point down from Saint. What's it called?
Saint Clare.
Yeah.
Saint Clare.
Some people think about 5 as average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Average?
No.
Would I like movies?
Yeah, but he's biased. He's bought by Big Pharma. Look at his cat.
He's been paid off. Yeah,
no, this means nothing.
That cat was full of money when they gave it you. Yeah. Right, so the next movie was called Cold Wallet, and it was about a bunch of Redditors, crypto bros that lose their money. And this was a lot of fun. This is probably really fun. Yeah, this is the one I enjoyed the most out of the day, I'd say. I like this one. Didn't do anything special, didn't do anything crazy. It was just a solid comedy horror, well, barely horror really, like comedy thriller.
Dark comedy thriller kind of.
Yeah. I thought it was great. Liked all the characters. Comedy really hit the spot. The casting of the guy that plays Big Head in Silicon Valley as the like tech billionaire is perfect inspired casting, and I love it, and I love that guy, and I look forward to seeing that guy in anything else. It was just fun. I wish it had pushed it a little bit further at the end, perhaps, but I was just happy with it. I had a good time.
Dave?
Yeah, I also had a good time. I mean, it was essentially 4 people locked inside a mansion overnight. Was basically like
and he's like whispering to him, he's gonna betray you, and this kind of stuff,
and like the CEO guy is trapped.
Yeah, he's kind of like he owned the company that busted this like Bitcoin,
like it's like
pseudo
a
Bitcoin
company thing.
And he's got all the money on his like hard drive or whatever, and they're trying to get into it. Basically, to get their money back. One of them wants to Robin Hood it and give it to all the people, and then he's trying to like work his little
he's talking to them individually, trying to get them to like
take
turn
a
on
buy
each
off, and
so it's like like a old school like thriller. It's just a small cast, one location, It's just how the characters interact with each other.
It's a lot of fun. If I was to recommend to you, a person that didn't go, which movies to watch, unless you want to watch a really terrible movie for ironic reasons, A Desert and Cold Wallet are the two ones to watch, in my opinion. Particularly Cold Wallet. I probably will rewatch that myself.
Out of 10, Dave, for that film?
Ooh, yeah, 8. Yeah.
Mike?
See, because of my system, it's still a 7. But I'm gonna. But,
everything is a 7.
But because I had a great time, I'm gonna put it a 7.6. So it's slightly above Invader as my favourite.
It wasn't better than Invader, I don't think.
I had a better time.
It was more fun.
I
don't think
more at what it was doing. I think what it was.
I don't think it will like have the rewatchability of Invader or A Desert.
Depends what kind of movies you rewatch. I think I rewatch more horror comedies than horrors, perhaps.
Yeah, I do too. But it really just kind of is what it is. Like it's very what it is.
Short, snappy, Aaron.
Yeah,
minutes.
it's what it is on
I could
on
watch
the
that
surface
on
level. There's,
whenever.
Yeah, it's easy to watch.
Yeah,
but like I think that like A Desert potentially could have much more to it on subsequent watches. That's what I think.
Oh yeah. It's not gonna. My rating isn't gonna change rewatching it probably, whereas it might do for A Desert. But I don't know. It's one of those easy, fun watches, and I could see myself just watching it for fun.
In a word,
Yeah.
what would you watch again? What's the one you would watch again?
What, from the Monday, the last day?
Any two, both days.
The top one. Oh, for me, Azrael. Yeah,
Azrael.
No question.
Mike,
For
your
me,
favourite?
it's between Invader and Cold Wallet, I'd say. But if I had to choose one, I'm just going to go Cold Wallet. I just have a good time.
And I'm also going to go Azrael. Then let's sum up quickly what we thought of it. So, Dave, over the 2 days, your experience as a whole, how was FrightFest?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I really, really had fun. I've been really looking forward to, hoping to do a film festival for like mine. Well, basically since I've known what one is, and especially since becoming a horror fan, that this has been on my radar to do for a while. And it was honestly like much. I didn't really know what to expect, with a film festival, but it exceeded my expectations. I loved being in London, doing it. I loved. Basically knowing that you just get up, have some breakfast, turn up at a cinema at like 10 in the morning, and know that the cinema is going to carry you through the whole day with just just a sequence of like of movies that you've never seen before. And everybody's experiencing the journey together. You step out after the movie and the atmosphere, like everybody's reacting to it. You just you're sat by the toilets, and you can overhear
You're just
people
taking
talking.
the vibe and what people think. Yeah, that's why. I mean, I'm shitting on Ladybug, but no matter the quality of movie, I'm happy to have seen it there.
Hell yeah.
Purely because you see it with all these people. All the people I follow on Letterboxd add their review, and I get to disagree or agree. It just feels like being involved in the community, being part of something. I mean, I've never been to a premiere of a movie before, I don't think. Oh, except for The Hobbit 3. But this was a lot better experience than that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was good to go in as a casual viewer of horror films, knowing I enjoy them, but almost stepping in, I felt a bit of an imposter within the community of it. But actually, I had a really good time and ended up coming out of it feeling more part of the community of horror films.
It's not just built for the horror dweebs. It's
no.
built for the everyman, I imagine.
It is, and it's also...
And I think you got that read from it. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. I expected to go in and everyone be dressed up as like Freddy Krueger or something, and it wasn't that. It was very...
Oh man, I'd love if everybody was dressed up as Freddy Krueger. Like, we're the only people that aren't Freddy Krueger. That'd be amazing.
But it was totally understated, and it was. I loved that about it. It was go in, watch a movie, everyone comes out, we talk it over amongst ourselves. You kind of make friends as you go along as well. You speak to the people next to you because you get the same people next to you in the cinema for most of the time, and. There's a little store. You can buy a T-shirt. You can buy some old Blu-rays and stuff. But it's all very nicely packaged.
It's quite nice and casual as well. There wasn't any. It was. Make sure you're here for this movie. Make sure you're.
Yeah,
like you can do
if you are an anxiety-ridden type person and you stress a lot about going to places and being in big events, this was really good. Like it was so understated, and in this day and age, it's really nice for something to be that and just be about the films, and you get the directors and producers and actors on the stage. So no matter what, it was a really fun experience. A lot of premieres, UK premieres and world premieres in some cases. Yeah. So it was a proper nice weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 for FrightFest.
Yeah, not 7.
9.7.
Yeah.
That's the only non-7 of the weekend.
Yeah. I lost my vape liquid, so that's the 0.3. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that's it for FrightFest. I think we're going to try next year to go for the whole hog, go the whole way, go for the 4 days, see everything, be in those nice recliner stool seats, and get right up close and personal with it. And hope you enjoyed our little review of the films we saw from FrightFest. Remember, you can like, share, and subscribe this if you're watching on YouTube. It's a Stab in the Dark. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast service, it's also a Stab in the Dark. And to follow us on Instagram, it's _Stab in the Dark, and that's the same with X/Twitter. That is _Stab in the Dark, and of course TikTok, because we're down with the kids as well. So we'll see you. We'll see you next time for more, and just look out for us and comment. What did you think of FrightFest, or will you go next year?
Yeah, see you there.
See you there.
See you next year.
See you later.
See you next year.